Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Blacktop here. Today I wanted to bring you a video. I've been kind of thinking about this topic for a long time now, and that is competitive versus casual players. I know if you've been in the Yu-Gi-Oh community for a while and you've watched like videos, deck profiles, people just talking about the game in general, you probably can get sort of a dichotomy between competitive and casual players. So today I'm going to sort of discuss that and try to give you my thoughts on it and sort of provide a solid definition, or at least whenever I'm talking about competitive and casual players, a solid definition for that. So, um, to start off with, I myself am a casual player. My favorite deck is Blue Eyes, and although it did win the World Championship like 2 years ago, it is a very casual deck. If you took it to a regional or YCS right now, you wouldn't, most likely, would not be able to do anything with it. The only competitive deck I've played are Pendulum Magicians, and I didn't. Yeah, I only went to one regional with those because the like it was the only one close to me, like for a long while, and I didn't do anything there. Um, and so today, and now giving you that, like I don't think I'm biased to one or the other. Like I would say probably the most expensive cards I've ever bought are Ash Blossoms and Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. Those are like the most expensive cards I've ever bought. Maybe Heavy Metal Foes Electromite whenever that came out. But I don't have like Evenly Matched. I don't have Saryuja. Uh, what's the other one? Borlo Dragon. Don't have any of those. So that's where I'm coming from right now. And please don't get salty when I call Blue Eyes a casual deck. I'm pretty sure I call Dark Magicians a casual deck later on in this presentation. So please don't get mad at me for that. But they are, in fact, casual strategies, whether you like it or not. So competitive players, there are several different definitions you could have for a competitive player. So first one here is like plays the best decks and plays to win and to not have fun. I know a lot of times people who are uh, like not they don't go to like they don't play tournaments or they don't play meta decks will always posit competitive players as these sort of, oh well, they don't play to have fun, they just play to stomp on everybody else because that's they just like to win, and they just like to let other people not have a good time. And that's I guess I guess that's one of the definitions you could have for a competitive player. I'll tell you my thoughts later, but these are just some choices right now. Another thing could be just plays a competitive deck because it's fun to win. I think that's definitely a less negative definition. But anyway, and the last one here is plays a viable deck, puts a lot of effort into it. There's all sorts of things a competitive player could be. But yeah, that's sort of like some things a competitive player could sort of be. Next, what is a casual player? Well, plays decks with shoebox cards. I know some of my friends from back home. Over the summer, we played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's sort of the reason why I wanted to make this video. And a lot of them, like, they didn't have any recent decks or anything like that, so they just played with shoebox cards. Think along the lines of like Skill Dark Magician, uh, like hard drawing the Exodia card, stuff like that. Um, and another thing a casual player could do is play a non-viable deck and make suboptimal plays. Doesn't put too much time and effort into building a good deck, and really just in general like doesn't put a whole lot of time into buying the good cards and putting a lot of money into those. And as a joke, I sort of put this in there. Thinks Pot of Desires is a neg 9, which it's not, but that's what that is right there. So yeah, these are things a casual player could be. And like same thing with competitive players. Competitive players sort of sometimes not all the times of course, but sometimes have this sort of bad view of casual players, saying like, well, they don't know how to play the game, or they're just wasting their time, not doing well at this game. And I don't necessarily think that's true either. Just like I don't think how competitive players only play to win, and I think the competitive players can have fun at this game. So that's some things a casual player could be. Not saying that is what they are, but they could be. So what I think here, competitive players have to play, like they have to play a viable competitive deck. Because if you're competing in the game, you're typically going to be going to events like regionals, YCSs, playing a lot of locals. but also going to those regionals. And in order to do well at those, you have to play like a tier 2, tier 1, tier 0 deck. So that's why, like, especially if they play, higher tier decks like that, they have to spend time, effort, and money into building the said decks. They have to be able to purchase those Ash Blossoms, those Drolls, those evenly matched, infinite impermanence, things like that. They have to be able to spend that money there, and also competitive players make the most optimal plays, or at least they try to at all times, and they know how to play their deck. They know the capabilities of it. I mean, I suppose some competitive players could be in that sort of mindset, like, look, I just want to win. I just want to, get the prizes or whatever because I like winning and I like, shutting other people down. Now, I doubt that's like even a small percentage. That's probably like a very, very minute percentage of competitive players who think that way. But yeah, like the casual players could be sort of right in this instance. Now, I will say this. What people commonly think of casual players as, like people that are playing, like, I don't know, Dark Magicians or Blue Eyes or something like that, two decks that I like to play. Casual players aren't bad. They're really not. Casual players could be competitive players if they play a good strategy that's like semi-viable, if they know how to play their deck, if they have the expensive cards, if they have the Ash Blossoms, if they have the Saryuja or whatever, if they had all that stuff, they can still like be like competitive players. They just won't have the tier of decks that the competitive the standard competitive players have. And so, I mean, that's like one of the things that differentiates the casuals and competitives that way. But speaking of casuals, casual players don't usually play competitive decks, so they're usually tier 4 and lower. Sometimes, although not really a whole lot, casual players, instead of buying the cards that would make their decks good, like Pot of Desires, they'll just have cards that are lying around, or they purchase suboptimal cards. That's why I included a picture of Card Trader in this one, because like it's a card a more casual player would play. And I will say this, like anybody who makes fun of casual players because they don't have the money to purchase like expensive cards, I mean that's a pretty that's a pretty bad, like a really mean, a really unethical, and just generally not nice thing to do. Like making fun of somebody for not having enough money to play a game, even though they just love to play the game, like that's a piece of crap thing to do. So I don't think many people do that, but people that do are like the worst kind of people. Anyways, casual players don't really play in lots of regionals or YCS events. Casual players are more, when I typically think of them, play with their friends or locals, and that's about the highest tier of competition they'll go to. Now, I'm not saying that, while they play with their friends or while they play with or play at locals, that they won't see very competitive strategies and very good duelists. I'm just saying, typically, because they're not willing to, spend that much more money on this game, they won't be able to travel farther to go to regionals or YCS events. And so, like, I would sort of posit myself in that area as well. Like, I've been to a couple of regionals in my life, but I don't go to YCS events or anything like that. And then last but not least, they may or may not think Pot of Desires is a Neg 9. Again, I threw it in there for humor, but of course they are like it goes hand in hand with the not playing the best cards or purchasing suboptimal ones, because that's just what they have, and that's what they can afford, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whether you're casual or competitive, there's nothing wrong with being either or, I think. So yeah, that's what that is. So now I've sort of outlined what a competitive player and what a casual player is to me. Now there's a one other sort of class that comes out of this, because competitive players aren't like mean, terrible, extremely rich people. Although I will say you do kind of have to be a little bit more willing to spend more money on this game to do well. And casual players aren't just these like like these losers or whatever, these poor losers or whatever that can't do well in anything. But there's a class, the trash players. The trash players like literally have shoebox decks. They have no focused deck strategy. They don't use sleeves or deck boxes or play mats or anything like that. If anything, they'll just buy a legendary collection and use that cardboard mat in there. Trash players also do not treat opponents and their equipment with respect. I don't think this is quite, it's not a very common occurrence, but I mean, every so often I will see players who, will be rough with their opponent's cards and things like that, and that's just a no-no right there. The worst thing that trash players can do is not fully understand the rules of the game, which, doesn't make much sense, because if you think they're going to be playing this game, well, they want to know the rules of it, but that's just how it is sometimes, I suppose. Anyways, so yeah, that's the sort of dichotomy there, along with the trash players, of the casual and competitive mindset that a lot of people talk about. You know, Anybody can enjoy the game, whether you are competitive or more casual or whatever. And it doesn't make you a better or worse person or duelist to play one or the other. I mean, you can have just as much fun and, have just as good a time playing Blue Eyes as you can Gokis. Although I will say, if you're playing against Gokis, you might not have that much fun. Anyways, I hope like on behalf of other people who use these terms, it sort of clears things up. I don't think competitive players or casual players are inherently better or worse than one another, or inherently bad people at all. But that's just the sort of thing there is. Casual players are sort of in a league of their own, and competitive players are also sort of in a league of their own. It just takes a little bit more effort, time, and money to transition from a casual tier to a competitive tier. But that's all I have to say today. Please leave a like, and just comment down below if you're more of a casual or competitive player. What decks do you like to play? What sort of things you've seen people who are trash players do? And if you really like this content, please subscribe so I can continue making more of this stuff. Anyway, this is Blacktop signing out.